these chips are bad, but these chips are good. This fast food is bad, but this fast food is good because I'm getting paid to talk about it. I mean, that's really just marketing. Even if you're viewing marketing on the side of something that you think is really helpful and really good, I think it's still marketing. Like I, as a marketing professional, think marketing is inherently manipulative. That's kind of the whole point.
We have a great episode for you today with Mallory, aka This Is Mallory on Instagram. We wanted to do this interview for quite some time, and so we're really excited. Mallory DeMille is a content creator who utilizes her background in marketing and social media to make commentary content on how the wellness industry markets itself, specifically through wellness influencers with discount codes. She is perfectly happy being the person DMing a wellness company asking, "Are your affiliates allowed to make this claim?" Far from being anti-wellness, in addition to her business degree, she has a diploma in fitness and health promotion and many years of fitness instructing under her belt. As an evidence-based wellness girly, she cares about the truth in advertising and protecting your health and wellness from bad actors with slick, convincing marketing.
And this was a really fun one to navigate, wasn't it, Kate? I am coming from Scotland, Edinburgh. You are in Oaxaca, Mexico, and Mallory is in Canada as well. So getting this one set up was not easy. However, we did also get some very cool podcast stats back, and we found out that United States, the UK, and Canada are our three top countries where people listen to our podcast. So I like to think that we're giving a little bit of something to everyone that listens to our podcast here.
I love it. We also learned that our top city of listeners is Sydney, Australia. I think that was the most baffling thing to us, right?
Yeah, but thank you. Everyone who listens in Sydney, we appreciate you. We don't know why you're here, but we are glad that you are.
We love it. Please stay listening.
And once again, if you enjoy these episodes, please leave us a review, write some comments, share the podcast episodes with any of your friends. We really appreciate it.
Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the How To Fitness podcast with me, Michael Ujoa.
And me, Kate Lyman.
And today we are joined by a very exciting guest. Mallory, welcome to the How To Fitness podcast. It's lovely to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We have wanted you. We've been like, we need a conversation with Mallory for so long.
A long time.
But it was the holiday. I mean, you were moving. It was the holidays. We were all busy all the time anyway.
I do this in my spare time. I'm kind of hard to get
you
a hold of.
You have
Yes.
a full-time job.
Yes.
That's important. But I'm so glad we're finally doing this. And I feel like the timing is really, really good. So Mallory, I say we get right into it. You know, you spend your time fact-checking wellness claims online, which is a bold career choice. I guess it's not your career choice, a bold side.
Like free time choice?
Gig, yeah. A bold hobby. There we go.
Yeah.
Bold hobby. Tell us how you ended up here. Like, tell us about you and how you got to this space you're living in right now.
Hi, I'm Mallory, and I'm a pain in the ass to wellness influencers. I mean, like, it depends how far you want to go back. I went to school for business. That is my background. I'm a marketing specialist, and my career has been in social media. But then after my business degree, I went to college. I'm Canadian here in Canada, and I did a diploma in fitness and health promotion. I have always been passionate about health and wellness. I was a fitness instructor for many years, and always something that I was really interested in, and thought maybe my career would combine the two of like business and health. And that didn't like totally come to fruition. But what ended up happening is, you know, with the rise of Instagram and influencers, I started following a lot of wellness influencers because I had taken interest in those kinds of things. And so I probably in my like mid to later 20s, I was following a number of wellness influencers, and long story short, it made me feel terrible about myself, about my body, about food. And I mean, relative to what I know now about what is happening in the wellness space or what it's evolved to, it was like pretty tame. I was buying supplements that I didn't need, and I certainly didn't like. Like I still don't really know how to make spirulina and not taste like the bottom of the ocean. And so I was just like wasting money that I didn't need to be spending. And then through, I don't know, just like a few different levels of unlearning, realized that following these wellness influencers was like being pretty detrimental to my overall health, like physical and mental, and took the time to unlearn that stuff. And then I got really upset that had happened. And so with my background in marketing, you know, seeing all these wellness influencers making claims about products that they were trying to sell. And I was like, wow, that's really, you know, kind of messed up. someone should talk about that. And so I just decided to be that person.
And thank you. We need you. The internet needs you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how long I've known you for, Mallory, just through social media. I know we've not actually spoken via video call or phone call before, just through
Oh, so hi.
chat. Hi, yeah, lovely to meet you. Yeah, just through comment sections and DMs on Instagram, and I've always really loved your content. Just kind
Likewise.
of. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I just think the way that you do it is incredibly level-headed, funny as well, which always helps on social media. So yeah, I just first of all wanted to say that I think your content is awesome, and I am very, very glad that you are in this space. And yeah, Kate's right. We've wanted to speak to you for a long time. Your list has been on our list of like people really want to get on the podcast for probably like a year or so. But this does
I
feel.
remember you reached out a while ago, and I was like, let's put a pin in it.
Yeah. Just we're obviously navigating 3 different time zones as well, so trying to get this to work well is I'm very impressed at all of us. Well done, guys. Let's tap ourselves on the back. So yeah, like when did you think that? How long have you been creating content for? First of all, I guess just kind of set the scene. How long have you been creating this stuff on social media?
Well, we're in 2026 now. I would say that I really started to dedicate more time to it in 2023, halfway through 2023, and then started to see some videos take off in a big way like later in 2023. And so, yeah, probably about just over 2 years now.
I feel like in the last 2-ish years where you've started to like really dive into the content, like the speed at which misinformation and just like kind of, whoa, what am I watching content has exploded. Right?
Yeah.
Does that feel real
There's
to say?
so
Or
much
maybe it's
coffee.
like,
There's so many orifices. There's
so much coffee up the
There's
butt.
so much piss. Yeah, like I feel like when I first started, it was very focused on. I remember one of the first kind of like series of videos that I made was about a multi-level marketing company, and it was a quote frequency medicine device, and the reps for this company were making claims that were like astronomically non-compliant. And I was like very involved with tagging the company and being like, I don't think your reps are allowed to say this. Do you like have a word? And since then, I just feel like, and maybe I'm more like in the space and I'm more aware of it all, but that now just seems very tame. Of yes, like the claims they were making were non-compliant and were like big in their own way, but they just seem very different. And it feels like the space has just evolved to almost just like a fully contrarian reality. That's how it feels.
That makes a ton of sense. And I feel like I have a slightly different perspective than you two. Like you two are on Instagram a lot more. I actually am really not. And I keep everything muted. And so I don't really see much. But if I ever get on my personal account, which like is mostly like the Instagram version of Book Talk or whatever, I still see things that make my jaw drop. And I'm like exposed to this content. But I'm not like in it, and I still see let's drink our aged pee. And I'm not the target market. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I get where we get in an echo chamber because the algorithm's like, oh, here's what everyone's doing, and it's not actually accurate. But as someone who's looking sometimes from the outside, like I don't even want any of that, I still see it. And that's where I'm like, oh, the misinformation is greater than ever before. And we have to be more careful than ever before.
I feel really sorry for Kate because she's like happily oblivious to so much stuff on social media. Then I'm like, Kate, have you seen this? And I just like ruin her algorithm by sending
She's like,
her.
blocking your number. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's Kate gone on social media? Yeah, exactly. And it is. And I'm assuming we can't really talk about this episode without talking about like make America healthy again. I know that Kate definitely wanted to talk about this topic in this episode.
I always want to talk
like,
about this topic.
do you think do you feel like in the last 6 months, how long is this? I feel like they've been in power now for a while. It feels,
year.
oh my God,
Michael,
okay.
it's been a year.
Jeez, it kind of feels like not long, but also like decades. Like, do you feel like this past 12 months, then this last year, like things have just really amplified and started to snowball even further?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the top of the episode, I'm Canadian, and like I know on the internet sometimes that doesn't even really matter, but like I wouldn't say like American politics, or like I feel like everything I know is kind of against my own will. And when it comes to Make America Healthy Again or MAHA, it just became like I have burner accounts on Instagram, and that was mostly for my own mental health to separate it so that I can have my own personal algorithm, which right now is mostly heated rivalry edits. and like various other things that I am like personally interested in. And it's not really this kind of space necessarily, or these influencers. But I have these burner accounts where I follow, particular influencers. I pretend I am someone organically, kind of falling down this. And if they're sharing things or I come across other profiles, I'm like, if I was just a person, or when I've done research for episodes, I'm a correspondent on the Conspirituality podcast. And I do recall last year I was doing an episode on cancer claims and like Kangen water, which, some have claimed it's a multi-level marketing company. And all of a sudden I was being fed sponsored content on these burner accounts about like alternative cancer healing modalities and clinics. And I was like, oh my God, this algorithm thinks I have cancer and I don't want chemo. And so it was just feeding me all that. And so when it comes to these burner accounts, for sure, Maha just became woven into everything. And these influencers who were not talking about it before, it kind of became their identity, where they were like Maha, like that's what they were advocating for. It was no longer just these ideas or this space. It was like Maha specifically. And yeah, I did an episode with, again, Conspirituality, which I'm a correspondent for, on Maha Mamas, and it was over a year ago at this point. And so it's been around even before that. So yeah, it's been very of the space for a long time.
I listened to that episode. It was great. And I recognized it was like a few months back, but still felt just as poignant as ever. Like some things are very cyclical in this space of like so much content and things, like topics turning over really quickly. But everything you said a year ago still feels just as relevant right now. And I feel like, I'm not going to speak for you, but it kind of feels like for maybe in your work, 2025 was, we're speaking about Maha influencers. We're telling people not to put coffee up their bums, and we're telling people not to, I don't know, what would the other one be? Drink their pee. I hate that I have to even see that. Anytime
like
someone
detoxes,
anytime,
parasite cleanses.
Exactly. Yeah. Anytime anyone does a stitch with any urine content, like I'm
Sorry,
dry heaving. I can't handle it. Yeah.
Oh, you don't like when he rubs it in between his hands and puts it in his eyes? That's not for you? Yeah.
I hope it's not
I
using
need
a
a
public
trigger
pool.
warning.
This is just so
You need
gross.
a trigger warning for urine content and any like raw meat or the fermented meat stuff. Like
I did an episode on that too. Yeah, like raw, the idea of raw, and there was this raw meat, raw water, and raw milk, which is obviously really big right now too.
Yeah.
I also feel like I need to have a burner account. You both have separate Instagram accounts. I don't. I feel a bit left
I
out.
highly recommend it, even from like if you're making content and you want to know what's in this space, like even just from a mental health perspective. Like I only dive into it when I feel mentally in a place where I can do that. And I keep them all in their own little space, and I don't have to worry about it. And sometimes, and I love when my followers send me videos, but I usually just forward it right onto my burner account so that I don't even open it on my own.
That's a really good idea, because that's it. I
yeah.
get sent so much stuff now, so my phone just thinks that I'm completely unhinged.
One of them.
them.
Protect the algorithm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yikes.
I do have an Instagram account for my dog that I started years ago. I might start using that.
Oh, maybe your dog becomes a Maha influencer.
I was going to say that. The last final question on this one. So what do you use as like your alias? Do you use like an AI picture?
You can't tell us.
No, don't have to tell me like
say
exactly
that.
what it is, but like, do you kind of go quite like hippie, quite woo-woo
Well, it's a
with
private
it?
account. It's a private account. My handle is very reminiscent, let's say,
Okay.
of the space. And my bio is very limited. I post photos to it, even though it's private and no one follows me, just because it needs to be like an active account. And so, but yeah, are you crazy? I'm not telling you.
I'm asking you off camera. I'm asking you off
Yeah.
camera.
Michael's trying to get you off, like you were like guard down so he can find it. Mallory, I think it's fair to say that all of us have been in the health wellness industry for a while. Like I know that you are working a full-time job in marketing and this is your hobby. But you were a trainer and so you are immersed in this space. Do you think the average person nowadays, we're talking about 2026, is more informed or more confused than say like 5-10 years ago?
I would say probably more confused. And like I also recognize like I am in my own echo chamber, as I'm sure we all are, where I'm like, oh, everyone knows wellness is a scam. But that's entirely not true.
Mm-hmm.
And so a really good example of this is I have an unrelated full-time job, which I won't get into. It's irrelevant. But someone from my work, which like folks at work know what I do and they're very supportive, which is very lovely. But one of them was asking like, oh yeah, I did see something about a parasite cleanse. Like, do I need to take that? And I'm like, no, like you're a very smart person, and like this is actually very telling. And this was just last year, and so I think to me that was really indicative of outside of my echo chamber, outside of I care about wellness or I'm interested in wellness, just like the average person. There really is more confusion, I think, with more coming onto the market and not just to sell, but like belief systems. I really do think that influencers have, and this is, been for a while, but have evolved to a place where they're no longer influencing just to get you to buy products. It's influencing you to adopt an entire belief system, which then makes it easier to sell you a suite of things. And it becomes this package deal of not only belief systems, but then things you need to buy for those belief systems. And so I think obviously that just makes it there's so much shit to wade through now of what is real and what is not, what is AI and what is not. Like, I think that even more than anything is making it confusing. On one of my burner accounts, I pretty much just follow AI wellness influencers. And if you go to their bio, there's a link and it's just for one product. The entire AI account exists to sell one product and it's linked everywhere. And so I think that's kind of in terms of things to see in 2026, I actually think that that's a really big thing. A lot of folks are not picking up that it's AI.
Yeah, I get
That's
sent so
so
many
scary
videos
to
now
me.
from people being like, what do you think about this? I'm like, it's clearly AI. But I think people, I don't know if you're getting this as well, Kate. A lot of people who I've started coaching over the last few months, one of the reasons they're reaching out for help is because they just simply don't know which way to turn now. Like they are just so confused with the amount of misinformation out there. Are you finding that too?
Absolutely. And I think it's, if you go to anyone who teaches you how to like do content or whatever, it's like hot takes, controversy wins. Like you got to share your perspective that no one else is saying. Like you have to be the expert and things like that. And like when everyone has a hot take and every hot take is the opposite of the last hot take you consumed and everything is controversial, there's no winning. Like I have so much empathy for people who just feel so confused because if I were to go into a new, I don't know, area of learning, a new hobby, a new thing I wanted to learn about, I wouldn't know how to handle all the information and the hot takes and the this and the that. And it just feels really, really hard. Mallory, I'm wondering if you can speak to when we're thinking specifically about health content, like what type of health content gets rewarded algorithmically, and is that like regardless of accuracy?
Yeah, I would say, and Michael, maybe you probably feel the same way because we both stitch videos, but the more extreme the video that we're stitching is, the more we are rewarded with engagement because that kind of stuff just takes off. And so I think anything that is extreme, we talked about the piss in the eyes. That's going to be an ongoing theme throughout this episode is like the most extreme thing. Like somebody rubbing piss in their eyes, like that's extreme. That is contrarian. That whether it gets engagement and a lot of attention for the right or the wrong reasons, it is still amplifying that particular influencer and their ideas and what they have to sell ultimately. But I think it's anything that is just, I mean, like we know that the things that are ultimately like good for our health are like kind of boring and that doesn't sell. And so something that is not boring will obviously take off, especially when an influencer is like incredibly confident. They're speaking in absolutes. They're like, I have the cure for cancer. Like, that's a contrarian take. It is different than our general understanding of something or what we have heard before. But they think that's a good thing because it's like, well, they, quote unquote, they have been lying to you. And my hot take is that when everything's a hot take, there's no hot takes. And like anything that's a hot take, I don't know. For my health, I don't know if I base my health on hot takes. I think that it's pretty nuanced, it's pretty boring, and very individual. And so I don't think that we should be going to social media for that. But in terms of the algorithm, your question, yeah, the extreme stuff, the contrarian stuff, the visually extreme stuff, not just what they're saying, is rewarded, takes off, spreads around, the algorithm entirely.
Yeah, I remember when I first started creating content as well. Does it feel more fun now or before? That's a question that just popped into my head. I feel like before it was more fun of kind of just like creating fun videos because usually those would do quite well in the health space. But now you're right, you have to use the shock and awe tactics. And it is a little bit frustrating that we have to use the clickbait of someone else's grossness in order to drive content or to drive traffic to content that actually helps people out. I really hope that 2026 sees that dying down a little bit, which I think people listening might find that a bit weird because so much of our content, Mallory especially, is reacting to other people's work. But unfortunately, that is the only way at the moment that we can reach people. I really hope that that does change soon. I don't know whether it will, but
No, I don't know. And I often like folks who are more like the dissenting voices when it comes to my content in my comments are like, well, you're just bullying. Your entire platform is built on tearing people down. And that's because I stitch. And I'm like, well, really, it's just if this is an example in this space, it is posted publicly, like drawing attention to what is actually happening in the space. And then, I mean, there are times where I will poke fun for sure, but I'm very particular about when I do that and who I do it to. And what ideas are presented that elicit that kind of response. But most of the time, I think that my takes are pretty fair. And really, I'm just showing folks if we go down this sales funnel, this is what we will see. And this is what is, prompting this ultimate sales funnel and the disclaimers at the bottom of the website. And so I think folks, obviously there are people who will not like my content and do not like how I operate online. But I do think that showing what is in the space is very powerful because, to Kate's point, like some folks are not seeing it, and they may one-off see it, but they don't realize how much there is and how intense it can be. And if you show them that, they're like, "Oh my God!" Like people are seeing that and they're taking health advice from it and they're buying things from this person. So I think it's really important to show it.
I don't tag the accounts that I'm stitching anymore. I used to, but I don't like that it causes like a mass pile on from tens of thousands of people to one person. Like my thought process is always I like to kind of challenge the message rather than challenge the individual, which is why I've stopped tagging. What are your thoughts on that? And do you tag the people that you're stitching every time?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, there's one particular creator who I did a video with, Derek, who's one of the co-hosts of Conspirituality. She has this thing where she wants to be tagged. And so like that's just like a knowing. But for myself, I don't. If folks tag the creator in my comments, that's beyond me. And I will always advocate for it. Like this is for education, entertainment purposes only. Do not go to this person's profile. Do not engage with them. View this video and take from it what you will. I am also incredibly aware of how my following has grown. And so if I don't typically show the handles of folks with accounts much smaller than mine, I'm very aware of I don't want to like wield some sort of, audience towards a particular account. And so I'm very particular about blurring handles at times or cutting them out or even just like not using them. Like I think there's so many examples from folks with more followers than me that I don't really need to worry about that. But yeah, to your point, I think it's for educational purposes. This is what I have to say about it. If they happen to see it, then they happen to see it. And I'm sure that's a very jarring experience. But I do not dabble in that.
Well, I think that makes the difference between bullying and educating, right? Like I think the education you do is really important. The education that all of us do to help people be more informed consumers in the online space is really important because the online space and online information, misinformation, is not going anywhere.
No, and
it's not going anywhere.
I think too, like to your point about being a consumer, like folks would be like, well, what should we be doing? Or what are your credentials? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell anyone to do because my background is not in medicine or health, and I value speaking in my scope. And a lot of these influencers that I cover don't. But my biggest thing is I obviously have a background in marketing. I have a background in social media. I can stay within that scope, but I'm also an average consumer. And so really, I just feel like I'm an average consumer making content for other average consumers, and I'm passionate about truth in advertising. And so I just lay out what I'm seeing. I give my own personal thoughts. And I think it's a real education around being a mindful consumer in the online space, especially with so many influencers, making claims and selling products that can impact your health. Like, I think that's so much more than following like a fashion or beauty blogger or vlogger where you can just buy like makeup that you like or like a t-shirt that you like. They just impact your health in huge ways. And so I think that that's something that I am mindful of too.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's great work. That's essentially the whole point of our podcast too, is we do these deep dives into specific topics to say, here's what the internet's going to say. Here's what the science says. And here's how you can make educated decisions. I don't think there's any episode in which we even tell people what to do beyond like the basic stuff.
Totally. And like, I also believe in like I actually think that these influencers that I cover, we have more in common than they probably realize. Like I like to diffuse essential oils. Like I do things that are maybe not totally like they exist. They're an overlap. There's a Venn diagram between, like this evidence-based sciencey side and this like wellness world. And every time I see one of these influencers on their little trampoline, I'm like, that actually looks like a lot of fun. I kind of want to get one. Like, like I think that something that these influencers that I cover don't really mention or acknowledge is nuance. And I think that like you can have both. Like you can be critical and like evidence-based and still like to smell essential oils. Or, I had someone comment on a video saying like, just say you hate working out. And I was like, I was a fitness instructor. Like, I don't understand how you can't like be a little bit of both. Like, yeah.
But I guess also because your day job is in marketing, you can probably spot things that a lot of people can't in the way that
Yeah.
people twist like science, education, whatever. What are kind of some of the things that you regularly see that maybe the everyday person doesn't recognize? I don't know if there's any kind of things that spring to mind when I say that, but are there any like tips and tricks you see a lot of these influencers using that can kind of hoodwink people?
Yeah, I think mostly, like I mentioned before, these influencers are, well, they're working in a space that is unregulated. And so they're making claims in a way that professionals that work in spaces that are regulated wouldn't be able to make. And so they're making claims that sound very absolute. There's no mention of like data or statistics or testing because there doesn't have to be in that space. And so I always like to use the, Parasite cleanse example where it's or I even made a video where I kind of like made up my own, where it was this example of if someone told you that the reason that you were feeling unwell or off is because you were filled with fairy dust, and then they tried to sell you a fairy dust cleanse, that's like a red flag. And so then if you apply that to other things that you see online, like this parasite cleanse trend, this person is telling you that the reason you're feeling unwell is because you're filled with parasites, but don't bother getting tested because those tests aren't accurate. Just buy my cleanse. Anything that they're saying where they are creating a problem, whether it's real or imagined or like half true. Like parasites obviously exist, but not to the extent that they are claiming. And then they try and sell you something on that. If they make you scared of this problem and then they try and sell you something. I think that with enough practice, that's something that folks can pick up on. And I also like to play this own game myself, which is claims versus disclaimers, which is what is this influencer claiming about this product on their social media versus if you go to the website where you would buy this product, and there is often a disclaimer in the smallest font possible at the bottom of the website that essentially says this product hasn't been proven to do anything. So if an influencer is claiming that it can do all of these things, if you have these particular medical conditions, you just need to take this cleanse, but the disclaimer says that it's not proven to do anything and you need to talk to your doctor first, which one should you listen to? Like legally that disclaimer is there. And I always find it really funny when these influencers like, you can't trust your doctor. Yeah. And the disclaimer on their website says, make sure you talk to your doctor first. And so I think that's another thing that folks can, it takes 30 seconds. It really does to just increase that critical thinking muscle and that skepticism muscle.
I know that to you who works so much in this space, that probably sounds like a pretty like, of course, or like simplistic idea. But I think that's really powerful. I think we forget about that because influencers specifically who are doing really well in the online space are doing well because of trust building. Like that's what that is what
Absolutely.
makes for a successful influencer. And trust building comes really easy and leads to us letting our guard down. And so just that one little check can be enough to just kind of like get our heads on right and be like, oh wait, what are they actually selling me, and what are they saying, and what can they legally say? And it's just a checkpoint, like you said, to put the critical thinking cap on.
Yeah, I think
think
it's like
really good.
weaponized rapport, like
Yeah.
this idea, like these parasocial relationships, where for those that don't know, parasocial relationships is basically like you feel like you know this person on the other side of the screen, even though because you follow them and they share a lot about their lives, but they don't know who you are and they know nothing about you and you've never talked and they probably will know nothing about you. But you really trust them because you follow them and they share so much and you see them every day. And that relationship can make it a lot easier to sell you something, especially in the wellness space when that influencer is maybe navigating some sort of diagnosis or chronic issue that resonates with you or a family member. And much like all of social media, we don't actually know if what influencers are sharing is even true, or if it's a highlight reel. Like they can manipulate it if they want to. I'm not saying that they are, but they certainly can, in their financial best interest. And so I just like don't really think that anyone who doesn't know anything about me or my health or my life can like truly care about my wellness. And they can certainly come off like they do and they can say that they do, but I would rather speak to someone who knows me, and is able to offer, like the evidence-based lens and considers social determinants of health and nuance and all that kind of good stuff.
It's
There's just no
sometimes
nuance on a 10-second reel.
yeah, it's really not, sadly. Yeah. Especially when you're hiding behind the clickbait video at the start. I don't know. I still find it very weird that people trust us so much. And even so, as someone who tries to stay very evidence-based and has kind of spent 7-8 years or so creating content on social media, trying to show people that I'm not there to scam them and I'm here, I have their best interests at heart, it still terrifies me, some of the questions I get asked by a lot of people. I don't know whether you feel this as well, Mallory, as well, where someone will ask you a question that is not inappropriate, but it's just I have absolutely no expertise in this topic and I don't know
Yep.
how I'm supposed to help you, but they come to you and they do trust you fully. So it always terrifies me thinking about the amount of trainers or the amount of wellness grifters that get asked these questions that will happily just push people down coffee enemas to cure their cancer,
And like privately, like we like you and I cover content that we could see publicly, but we don't know what happens privately. I will sneak into webinars now and then just to see what happens. I have paid for master classes, just to see what's behind a paywall.
Oh, she's committed. She's
Yeah,
committed.
girl. So I mean, like not often, but more out of like morbid curiosity of like, what is this person trying to sell? And it's always a sales funnel. Yeah. But I also get DMs as well. And I think it's more of a confusion from my followers' point where they think that like, oh, I thought you were a dietitian or like, oh, I thought you were this. But I am quick to be like, this is outside my expertise. Thank you so much for that message, but I am not the person.
Yeah. Well, if you see someone with a little French bulldog icon as their picture, just know that I will be there with you, Mallory, in these webinars.
Okay.
Yeah, backing you up.
Sounds good.
I would love to hear your take, Mallory, on we've kind of talked about when the content that does well, it's polarizing, it's a little extreme. And we've talked about how, a lot of what that leads to is a sales funnel and that we can kind of become more in tune with the fact that this is marketing. But I'd love to hear your take on where kind of like fear and urgency and the moral language gets used to push products or behaviors and how you observe that.
Yeah, I think that like fear mongering in the wellness space is huge. Like I mentioned with the Parasite cleanse trend, this idea of you're riddled with worms and parasites. That's a pretty like scary statement. It's the reason why you're sick, but not to worry, I have the solution. Or this idea that like seed oils are, or like insert whatever food that they're demonizing and like labeling it as poison. And I'm just like, I think we've forgotten that like words have actual meaning. um, and like labeling something as poisonous is not the way to go. And like I mentioned, I was in a headspace probably, just under a decade ago now, where I was following these influencers and I was scared of food. And you start to see food as morally good and bad. And I feel like I have done a lot of work to be better at that. I don't know if it'll ever totally go away, but it's been a lot better. But I see now in the space that it just feels so much more extreme, where the foods that are like quote unquote bad are always evolving to be something different and they're always adding them in and swapping them around. So I think like the fear mongering is really big with food. And typically that's attached to a quote unquote clean, natural company that that particular influencer is affiliated with. And so, these chips are bad, but these chips are good. This fast food is bad, but this fast food is good because I'm getting paid to talk about it. And so, I mean, that's really just marketing. And I think that that will always be around marketing. Like even if you're viewing marketing on the side of something that you think is really helpful and really good, I think it's still marketing. Like I, as a marketing professional, think marketing is inherently manipulative. That's kind of the whole point. It's just whether or not folks are weaponizing it, they're bad actors, they're acting in nefarious ways, or you're using it to push like good information or education. But yeah, the wellness influencers really, really love to marinate in that fear because it does make us feel like, oh my God, like this is poisonous. That feels very, I need to do something immediately about this. And so you will do something immediately about it. And it's probably buying like a detox or a cleanse or something.
I
Yeah,
guess,
and trusting harder
Yeah.
someone who's gonna fix your fear.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, they're on my side. They're trying to help me. But really, it's again selling a belief system that then leads to selling products or courses or masterclasses.
Yeah, and I guess at the root of that as well, isn't it, is of kind of making everyone feel like it's your fault, like all of your health issues are your fault and you are completely to blame. And I guess I was going to ask you, like, why do you think they do that? But maybe that's a bit of an obvious question, I guess. But it is very common, isn't it? It's rather than kind of looking at the wider context of like the social determinants of health and why things are happening in society. It's more about you have done this to yourself, and therefore you need me to fix you.
Yeah, and like if you believe that you're in a certain place because of things that you did, you can get out of that place by doing things yourself. I think a lot of it that I see comes down to this element of control and how much control do I have? And like you can have control over your health in some ways, but like not in every way.
Mallory, I want you to share with us your thoughts on, okay, we're at the beginning ish of 2026. How do we engage without losing our minds? How can people stay informed? Because the goal isn't going to be like get off social media. That's never going to happen. How can people stay informed without being constantly activated or anxious or in this like scary spot?
Yeah, I think if you see something and it makes you anxious and it makes you scared, that's a red flag. Like this person who is sharing this is trying to make you feel something, and we make decisions out of emotions and fear. And so anything that makes you feel those extreme feelings, I would be cautious around it. Like I said, like a lot of the health information is often like kind of boring. And so I would focus on like, obviously folks who lead evidence based are really important. And I typically say that like this idea of should I be taking information from this person or like listening to this person, my question, even for myself, is would this person financially benefit if I believed what they're trying to get me to believe?
Yeah, that's a really good filter to put on the information.
Yeah. It's such a solid one as well, isn't it? I think it's very rare to find health promoters in this space that aren't making money in questionable ways. It definitely feels like I'm we are in the minority here, with the way that we create content on social media. Like me and Kate, we don't have sponsorship for this podcast because any way we try and look at sponsorship just feels a little bit icky.
Yeah, and you are allowed to make money. Like I do think I have folks who are like, "What? You don't think that folks should be able to promote anything?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't say that at all." Like, I joke about calling out discount codes, but there are many creators that I follow that have discount codes, and I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's the way that you're trying to sell what you're selling around health and the claims that you're making. I also have folks, my content, I'm also Canadian, so it's a bit trickier with like creator funds, but my content isn't monetized. Like I do not make money on my content. That is not to say that one day that might change. But at this time, I don't. I actually get a lot of DMs from supplement companies and folks in MLMs, and I'm like, how much research did you do before?
No, and they say, Mallory, we love your content. You look like
we
the
feel
perfect
so aligned.
fit. Yeah.
I actually messaged like this one woman this was just 2 weeks ago. She's like, I think you would be a great fit for this company. And I had to be like, how much research did you do before you sent this, obviously copy paste message, and then she deleted the message. And I'm like, that's kind of what I thought. So yeah, if you're a wellness influencer or company, do not voluntarily put yourself on my radar.
Like, I will come for you. And like 50% of the time it's the wrong name too, right? Because they copy and paste it over.
Yeah.
At least
Hello,
that's
this is Mallory.
Yeah, that's it.
yes, exactly. Or I'll get like Kelsey or something, like you didn't even change the name. Like you forgot to change the name. You just messaged Kelsey and then you messaged me.
Yeah. And what other boundaries can we put in place? I know you mentioned that you kind of have these burner accounts, which I think I'm gonna have to start doing. Is there anything else that you do to protect yourself online from all the misinformation?
I think inherently or because of this work, I have become maybe like too skeptical. Like I'm an incredibly skeptical person. And so in terms of boundaries for this work, I mean, I'm a millennial. I'm chronically online.
Yeah.
I do have other hobbies that I do to like fill my cup. But I'm incredibly passionate about this. And so there is a part of me that's like really filled by putting out good information and also this part of like a creative outlet. I really like you said, I lean into comedy. I think I once had a person comment saying, you're just leveraging comedy to get people to listen to you. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like,
Bingo.
that's exactly what I'm doing. And so for me, it's more about like, how can I package this in the most educational, entertaining way possible? But I would say my biggest boundary is just keeping all of these little influencers who I have my own parasocial relationship with just in their own little space. And I can visit them whenever I decide, but they don't typically show up on my feed.
I think there's, this question that keeps coming up to me is like, as consumers of information, do we even need to consume daily constant health information to be healthy? Like, no.
Yeah.
We don't, but it's also
exactly.
the world we live in. It's unrealistic to be like, stop trying to get your health information online. What other option is there, really? I mean, like going to your doctor I'm from the United States, for a 90-second doctor's appointment.
Well, even in Canada, I just got a doctor last summer after not having one for over 10 years. And same thing. Like, I do think wellness influencers leverage these things that are very real. There are problems in the medical system, States, Canada, wherever. There is a warranted distrust of doctors that needs to be mended. No one would, who is critical of wellness or critical of MAHA would ever disagree with that. But it's often these wellness influencers who are leveraging that to showcase what then they can offer. Like, I view it as them not necessarily filling that gap, but like exploiting it. And so I get 15 minutes with my doctor, and they'll say that as a bad thing. Like, you could go to this functional medicine doctor and get an hour. And I'm like, yeah, that like 15 minutes isn't a lot, but like, I would rather go to someone who, is operating from that particular education than a different one. And so it's not perfect, but I do think they will leverage those downsides.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. I mean, in almost anything, there's a grain of truth, right?
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about, and we won't spend too much on this, but it's just so relevant to where we are this week. The U.S. brought out these new dietary guidelines, and they are leveraging so much fear. If you go through the website, there's this big black page with red numbers, and it's like, the US is sick. We are dying from boom, 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 boom. Here, let me list all the chronic disease issues. And it's like, no, you're right. Like that, things aren't looking great over here. But I don't know if this pyramid is going to solve the problem, right? But we can build trust in the grains of truth that people are touting and the fear they put behind it. And then we can distrust old systems that don't seem to have like solved everything. And then like we need this new outlet, and maybe someone's supplement is going to do that, or cleanse, or what have
Yeah.
you. I think all of that to say I feel very sympathetic to people who do find themselves down this hole of like, I'm scared, I'm uncertain, I want to support my health and I don't know how, and this person's really telling me that they can do it, and they're bringing up the scary points that do feel really like freaky to me. But I think you've given us some really, really good tools for how we can just like put a critical thinking lens onto all this info that we consume.
Yeah, and I also really love, I'm sure you're both familiar with Dr. Mike's content. Like I've consumed a lot of his content. I've watched the Jubilee Surrounded ones. And one thing that I have taken from how he approaches it is he is obviously critical of big wellness, but he is also critical of big pharma. And I don't think that wellness influencers or this wellness space can say the same, that they can be critical of the space that they're in. They're kind of only critical of the other side. And so I think that's another red flag to look for is like I've been called a big pharma shill, which is so funny to me, because I'm like, where is the money?
Please
Like,
bring it on.
I want to buy a house. Like, where is the money? But I'm like, no, I can absolutely criticize both sides, and like folks will comment, well, why don't you make content about that? I'm like, well, this is my channel and this is what I'm passionate about, and if you're passionate about that, then I encourage you to make that content. But I will still like say it, like, absolutely, there are issues, there's reasons to be critical. But you push these, characters in the wellness space to do the same, and they just can't because their bottom line relies on it too much, or for whatever reason. They're just a lot more hard pressed to be able to do that.
So I guess we should kind of round things off here. So if listeners could remember just like one question to ask before believing any kind of wellness claim or influencer online, what should that be?
The one that I kind of had in mind, I already gave a spoiler to in the episode, which is asking yourself the question, would this person financially benefit from me believing what they're trying to get me to believe? I think that it can go a long way. But then the second one that I'll give is, we've talked about parasocial relationships. We've talked about like an influencer is often like a person minus these like AI slop accounts. It's typically a person. You have this understanding of like their story, why they sell this supplement, their personality, their charisma. And I always ask myself if what they're trying to sell me in this post had a faceless commercial, and that's how I digested this information, would I be just as interested? If there was no personal story, if there was no face, if it was just a commercial with this product like on a stage, would I be just as interested? And the answer, I mean, like, I'm not really interested in a lot of them anyway, but putting myself in those shoes, the answer is no. Like, it's kind of boring, it's vague because they can't make these incredible claims. And so even as a thought experiment, I think that that's a really interesting way to go too.
I think that's really cool. I love that.
That's really good. I've never really thought of it that way, but now I'm going to consume
Marketing.
information.
We've stolen that one off you now,
marketing,
Mallory.
imagine
That's
that.
ours. That's perfect.
Well, thank you, Mallory. This is great. We love talking to you and learning from you. And I think there's just some really, really good nuggets of information here that will be really helpful to listeners. And I know were helpful for me too.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we could finally get this out of the group chat, as they say.
We love it.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, Mallory, where can people find you so that they can consume all of your brilliant content?
All of the Piss in the Eyes content. I am predominantly on Instagram at this.is.mallory and on TikTok as well at Mallory's Thoughts. I was a bit late to the TikTok game, and so I couldn't get the same handle, but it's all good.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
We love it. We'll make sure that you're in the show notes and that our listeners can find you.
Thank you so much.